Hey, what's up folks? How's it going? This is Waj. Hope you guys are all doing well. So Apple just launched one of my most anticipated products that I've been waiting for a long time, and that's a replacement for this old thing over here. We now have the new MacBook Air. Now they also refreshed the Mac Mini as well as the iPad Pro. We'll talk about the Mini, but the iPad Pro will leave to another video. But basically with the new Air, we have a 13.3-inch Retina display. In terms of resolution, we have a 2560 by 1600 IPS display that has a PPI count of about 227. We also have a 48% wider color gamut than the previous generation and much improved viewing angles, as you would imagine from that IPS display. Now the speakers have also been upgraded. We have stereo speakers that are 25% louder and give you 2 times more bass than the previous generation. And in terms of the thickness, the older generation went from 3 millimeters up to 17 millimeters. The new Air will go from 4.1 millimeters to 15.6 millimeters. It's also going to be slightly lighter, weighing around 1.25 kilograms or 2.75 pounds versus the older one weighed at 1.37 kilograms or just under 3 pounds. We're also going to have 3 color options, including gold, silver, and space gray. And the unibody construction will be primarily made up at 100% recycled aluminum. Now, like the Pro, we'll have Touch ID and a new chip called the T2 Secure chip, which is going to handle a lot of the encryption. It's also going to have a Hey Siri always on. Now, internally, this isn't going to be the most powerful PC Apple has to offer. You only really have one CPU option. That's an 8th generation Core i5 dual core processor that clocks in around 1.6 and it can turbo up to 3.6 gigahertz. We have 4 megabytes of level 3 cache and integrated 612 UHD graphics from Intel. The RAM is also very limited. It's integrated like the previous generation, so you can't upgrade it, and we're limited to 8 to 16 gigabytes and is also DDR3 based, so that's kind of upsetting. Fortunately, in terms of storage options, you can go from 128 gigabytes from the baseline configuration all the way up to 1.5 terabytes, which is definitely more than enough for most people out there. Now, in terms of the keyboard and trackpad configuration, it's pretty much identical to what we see in the MacBook Pro. Basically, we have the butterfly switch low profile keys, which some people really don't like, but that's something we'll just have to live with. We do have a 20% larger trackpad than the previous generation, and it is that haptic feedback system, so we no longer have that mechanical switch that we found in the previous generation. Now, definitely one of my biggest concerns thus far is the limited connectivity options, which we kind of saw coming. We basically have 2 Thunderbolt 3 or USB-C ports, and that's pretty much it besides a headphone jack. Thank God we still have a headphone jack, but no USB Type A connections and no SD card slot like we found in the previous generation. So that means we're going to need an adapter like this, which is going to have all of our essential connectivity, but it's going to be definitely clunky to use this all the time. But again, a compromise that we're going to have to deal with if you want to go for the Air. Now, certainly one of the best features about the Air and the reason why it got so popular in the first place was the battery performance. Apple more or less says that it's going to get the same battery performance in terms of wireless web. Both generations will get you 12 hours, but in terms of video playback, they're saying you might get an extra hour at 13 hours compared to 12 hours. But in terms of capacity itself, as you would imagine with a thinner profile, we are getting a smaller battery, about 50.3 watt hours compared to the previous generation. We had 54 watt hour battery, but coupled with the new more high efficiency internal CPU and more efficient hardware, supposedly you're going to get a little bit better battery performance, or if not the same as the previous generation. Once we get our hands on the new Air, we're definitely going to test out the battery performance to see how it stacks up against this previous generation. So definitely stay tuned for our full comparison coming up very soon. Now let's talk about the Mac Mini, something that they haven't upgraded for years upon years, and I'm surprised they are even going to update it, but it definitely makes sense because we basically have now 4 core options as well as 6 core options, 8th generation Core i5 and 7 configuration, basically different frequencies for those CPU models. And now in terms of RAM, you can configure it from 8 gigabytes to 64 gigs, which is definitely nice. It's DDR4 spec and it's SODIMMs, so it's potentially user upgradable, which is definitely going to be nice if you want to save some money. perhaps just get the 8GB model and then buy the RAM yourself, which is something that I'm going to definitely do. Now, the internal storage capacity ranges from 128GB all the way to 2TB. That most likely will not be upgradable, so that's definitely something you'll have to pick quite critically when configuring your Mac Mini. Now, with the more powerful internal specifications comes new thermal design. So supposedly you're going to have twice the airflow as the previous generation, which is definitely going to be important. Hopefully this unit will not overheat like what we encountered with the MacBook Pros. Now, definitely the biggest highlight for the Mac Mini for me is the I/O. We have 4 USB-C connections, a gigabit Ethernet, as well as an option to upgrade to 10 gigabit Ethernet, as well as 2 USB-A 3.0 connections, HDMI 2.0 port, and even a headphone jack, which is definitely going to be important if you want to hook this up to an external stereo system via that headphone jack. Now, in terms of the wireless connectivity, we have AC Wi-Fi as well as Bluetooth 5.0, and that's pretty much it for the Mac Mini. The only thing that we didn't get a refresh that some people were hoping was a new version of the old trash can, the Mac Pro. Perhaps Apple has kind of given up on that PC, but we'll see how things turn out. Now, the new Air, the Mac Mini, and the new iPad Pro will be shipping on November the 7th, but you can buy it today on October the 30th, and we'll definitely have reviews and comparisons for you guys out once we get everything in the office. But besides that, guys, that's really it. Definitely love to hear your thoughts about the new product lineup. Are you going to be getting the new Mac Air, Mac Mini, or the new iPad Pro? Definitely love to see if you guys are planning to make those Christmas or holiday purchases. But besides that, see you real soon. Take care.